Hey guys, J.S.T here, and today we are going to be comparing this brand new 2024 iPad Pro against my old iPad Pro from 2020. I would highly recommend going back and watching my last video where I did a full review of the brand new iPad, seeing if it was really worth it for me as an architecture student in 2024. To briefly summarize, this new iPad is very good for architects, drawers, artists alike, and I would highly recommend getting it if it is within your budget. Today's video is going to be a continuation of the first video where I'm going to be now comparing this brand new iPad Pro against my original iPad Pro I've had for 4 years, and seeing now the 4-year generation gap between these two iPads really make a compelling reason to upgrade or not. So let's get into it. The first comparison we're going to do is the design. Now, as you can see, the design hasn't changed all too much over the last couple of years now. It's been the same boxy shape with the same sort of camera cutout. I mean, as you can see, the new one now is just, it's got the same finish on it instead of this reflective one. Other than that, and maybe with the antenna bands, there's been no differences in terms of design other than the actual weight and the thinness of the new iPad. Apple has marketed this brand new tablet as being the thinnest product they've ever made. This new iPad Pro is not only thin, it's also very light as well compared to the other 13 inches. And especially when you compare these two, they're quite similar in weight and the way they feel in the hand. The main reason why I never picked up the 13-inch back in 2020 was mainly because of the weight and using it one-handed. A lot of people said it was very cumbersome to carry, so it was typically used as more of a laptop replacement because of the bigger screen. But I really wanted the bigger screen to use for drawing because it's nice to have a bigger canvas. But now that they've made this comparable to weight with the 11-inch, it's now compelled me that I'd rather spend a bit more money, get the bigger size, get the bigger canvas. So for drawing and stuff, it is a lot easier to do on this iPad compared to this one. A few quick other design points I wanted to talk about is both iPads have Type-C. This one, however, is spec'd and is a little bit more powerful Type-C with Thunderbolt 4 compared to just box standard USB Type-C. Both have the smart pin connectors, so you can connect it to the Magic Keyboard. In terms of the speaker quality, the 13-inch has a lot more bass and higher tones. However, due to the thinness, it tends to vibrate a little bit more when you hold it in one hand, and it's still pretty crazy how they're able to put in such good speakers in such a thin device. Lastly, let's just go through the camera modules. Design-wise, they haven't changed all too much. Feature-wise, they have. So the biggest one that we can see is that the removal of the ultra-wide camera that is now gone from the new iPads. Honestly, I wasn't fussed about it, never really used it. I'm kind of shocked that people are fussed about it because I can't imagine a lot of people using an ultra-wide on the rear. But yeah, nevertheless, it's gone. And instead what they've replaced it with is actually the LiDAR, which the original one did have, but now it appears to be a little bit bigger. They've also got a bigger flash called an adaptive flash, and that basically means you can scan documents a lot easier. And they've also added the microphone, and they've also added an ambient light sensor, which helps with the whole scanning document thing. I cannot stress enough how useful the new scanning document feature is to me. Me being a student, I need to typically scan in a lot of work for university. So that would require me to have to go to my printer at university or find another way of scanning in my work. Typically, because I am a bit lazy, I just want to try and do it on my phone or my iPad. But that means I have to balance the lighting right. I have to make sure like blinds are closed. I put a focus light onto it to get the perfect conditions. With the new iPad, I'm able to just scan it quickly. It does the job for me because it uses like AI processing to get rid of like all the shadows and the marks, and it's just amazing how effortlessly it's able to just do it. So this is a massive feature that from someone like me is actually very useful. Second thing we're going to get into is actually the screen quality. Now I've put this in its own little category because this is probably the reason why everyone is upgrading to this new iPad this year, and that's because of the brand new OLED screen that they put in here compared to this old LCD. The new iPad Pro comes with the new tandem OLED display. So it reaches peak brightness of 1000 nits with HDR brightness of 1600 nits. Now, if you're coming from the last 2 generations of the 13-inch, You won't notice too big of a difference with the screen quality because those had mini LED with similar brightness levels, but the only thing you would notice is more deeper contrast. However, someone like me coming from an old LCD display that they've used for so many years now, coming to this new iPad is like game changing. As you can see in this shot here, that this new iPad gets more brighter. The black bars are basically invisible when you're watching videos, and it's just night and day difference. I'm kind of speechless for what to say here at this point. Just for the screen alone, this is already such a big upgrade compared to the old one. Now, the third point I'm going to talk about is some software changes between these two tablets. So firstly, and it's a pretty big one, is actually the improvements to the battery settings. The new iPad Pro has a new battery toggle where you can actually see the battery health, you can see the condition of the battery, and you can see when it was manufactured and when it was activated. So you get a lot more detail now in terms of seeing how the batteries operate on your new iPad, which is a feature we have been waiting for years to come on this iPad now. So I was finally glad it's here. We also get a limiter on the battery as well, basically meaning that we can limit how much the iPad charges to every time we actually plug it in. And this is very good for a number of things. The key thing being is longevity of the actual battery. Basically what we can do is limit it to 80% battery charge, meaning it won't go all the way to 100, it will cap at 80, stay at 80, meaning you're not going to burn out the battery, it's not going to lead into high temperature issues, and the main thing, your battery will last an extra 20% longer than it used to. So it's very good, especially for someone who wants to keep an iPad for a long time and not having to change it. And it's very good now that we can actually see how much battery we got instead of having to go to Apple each time. So this is definitely a big W. My fourth criteria I'm going to talk about is now the performance and heat. So this new iPad Pro comes with the M4 processor inside of it. It's Apple's latest and greatest chip, and currently it's in no other device other than the new iPad Pro. My old iPad over here has the A12Z chip. This processor came to us right before the M series were introduced to the iPads, and in terms of performance, this is still holding up extremely well, and I'm actually shocked. And I know one of those issues is due to software locking, especially between these two iPads, but performance wise, there's no big difference. You'd be surprised to hear. I know a lot of people on YouTube nowadays are saying, oh, the new iPad is just faster and better. It's like 10% better or something. I don't even notice 10%. Using Safari, using things like canvases and stuff, I don't notice a big performance gain or loss between these two iPads. They're both performing the exact same. This could even be due to Wi-Fi. I mean, I've got very standard Wi-Fi, it's nothing special. But in terms of loading speeds, it's virtually the same. The one point I am going to mention is actually the heat between these two iPads. Now, again, because this is an older chip, it actually heats up very quick. If I'm using Morpholio trace for more than 10 minutes, the app starts to lag. I go down to like 30 FPS and then it crashes and it's on fire basically. So yeah, this new iPad Pro doesn't heat up as quickly as this one does, and in fact I haven't really felt it heat up that much, only when I was doing the initial setup of course, but other than that it's remained very cool, which is nice because especially if you're drawing handheld, you don't want it to be like burning your hands off or anything. So yeah, big advice, I would never pick this iPad just for performance. You're not going to notice a big performance gain unless they eventually unlock the full capabilities of the processor. They are going to be very similar, but you will notice things like improvements to battery life and improvements to thermals as well. So that concludes the main points I wanted to discuss between these two iPads. However, you may have noticed I've missed out one very important comparison between these two tablets, and that is the Apple Pencils. So as a drawer, the new Apple Pencil is definitely a huge upgrade, probably a bigger upgrade than the iPad itself, but I wanted to discuss this more in detail in a later upcoming video. Subscribe and stay tuned and keep an eye out for this upcoming video. Now it's time for the big old question. Should you get this new iPad or should you just get an older iPad instead? Well, simply put, if you're new to iPads, actually going for an older iPad, saving a bit of money could be the way to go, especially if you just want to test it out. Because the worst thing you want to do is get this newer one, spend over £1,000 for it and realise there's features there I don't want or don't need. If you are a bit of like a beginner artist as well, getting maybe a cheaper one as well, just to start with, kind of see how you're doing with drawing on an actual tablet, could be very useful. Once again, a lot of these features could be maybe a bit too overwhelming for this new iPad, especially with the new pencil as well. So kind of this is a very good beginner stage to start, with drawing and using the Apple Pencil for the first time. And lastly, if you are like a student as well, and if you're on a budget, go for the cheaper one. It still has a lot of the same sort of feature sets. Now, in my honest opinion, and I kind of hate to say it, the new iPad is definitely the way to go. Now, for the past couple of years now, there's not been a compelling reason enough for me to upgrade. The M1 was just a faster chip, M2 was an even more faster chip, but now this one is finally like, they've given us new features, and actually they've tuned this new iPad more to artists. So I would highly recommend getting the new 13-inch option, especially if you want to travel and you need a bigger size. I would say go for it. If you are on a bit of a budget, or you don't want this bigger size and you want to have a bit more of a slimmer one, go for the 11-inch. And if you have a bit more of a slimmer budget, then go for one of the iPad Air models that I've also released. Because the biggest thing with all of these models is that they all support the new Apple Pencil Pro, which I'm going to talk about in my upcoming video, so stay tuned. So yeah, that about wraps up this video. Please leave a comment down below for any other video suggestion ideas, and also any questions. Like and subscribe, and stay tuned for the upcoming Apple Pencil review next week. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you all later. See ya.